Namaste, everybody. And I would like to thank RKM Very, the organizers, especially revered Swami Atmapriyananda ji, for inviting me to be on this webinar organized on the occasion of the International Day of Yoga. Yoga was, in one sense, popularized in the United States long way back by Swami Vivekananda. A few years ago in the Wall Street Journal, there was an article by Annie Bardak. It said that the man who bought, it was about Swami Vivekananda, and it was titled The Man Who Bought Yoga to the West. And in that article, she remarked humorously that yoga, which is so popular, people don't know that it was Swami Vivekananda, a monk from India, who actually bought this to the United States, to the West at large. But all these people who are rushing to the yoga studios, wearing the stretch pants and trying to do all sorts of physical, contortions, asanas, and so on, would be surprised if they heard him, what actually Swami Vivekananda taught. He said, "You are not the body," which seems to be a sort of axiomatic for people who go to yoga practices here, that I am the body and I have to take care of the body, and the body is all I have. Swami Vivekananda said, "You are not the body." And they would be even more surprised, perhaps, when they hear him say, "You are not even the mind." So this is basically the theme of this talk, which we have now, this talk about the yoga of self-enquiry. What Vivekananda really brought to the United States and to the West at large was these higher yogas, not just the physical yoga, the Hatha yoga, which became more popular later on with the arrival of Iyengar and others. But Vivekananda brought to the West the Jnana Yoga, which we'll talk about today, the yoga of devotion, bhakti, the yoga of meditation, Raja Yoga. In fact, his classic text, Raja Yoga, was written here, right here in New York, and published from New York. Karma Yoga, how to transform our activities, our actions into how to spiritualize our actions. So these are various paths to self-realization. Perhaps the path we are going to talk about today is unique, and it can be called the direct path to self-realization. Let me explain what I mean by that. Vedanta tells us that we are Brahman, we are existence, consciousness, bliss. In our real nature, we are immortal, beyond suffering. If only we would realize that. In fact, Swami Vivekananda often used that language. When he met his disciples, sometimes he would say, "If only you knew what you truly were." So how do we know what we are? That is the goal of this path of self-enquiry. Let me make this a little more clear. In the path of self-enquiry, why is it so unique? In the path of self-enquiry, the spiritual journey that we undertake is not a journey in space. By that, what I mean is, in traditional and popular religion, often the goal is said to be, or understood to be, heaven, or a place where God exists. So somewhere else. This is not heaven right now where we are, but there is some place which is perfect, much better, and we have to go there, and that is heaven. So it's a journey in space. Here in this country, sometimes you come across big billboards, advertisements put up by churches. One said, "Heaven is a place," and then below it will be written, some phone number will be written, call 1800, something like that. You have to call to get information about how do you belong to that church. So heaven is a place. But the path of self-enquiry, the path of Jnana Yoga, the way of knowledge, there we are talking about that you are Brahman, that reality which is everywhere, all pervasive. So it is not a particular place that you have to go to attain or to realize the goal of Jnana Yoga. To realize that you're Brahman, you don't have to go to a particular place. It's not a journey in space. It is also not a journey in time. Sometimes we put the goal of spirituality in language, the language of time. Another billboard I saw was, after death you will see God, and again below that it was written, call 1800, something like that was written. So if after death, when you see after is a time word. That means God is not now, but God is after death. The goal of spirituality is after death, or after something, after some, even after the Messiah comes, or after one attains samadhi, something like that, some kind of spiritual experience. After that only you will get the goal of spiritual life. In Vedanta, again, the reality that we are looking for is always there, nityam. So was there earlier, it is there now, it will be there later on. So it's not a question of going through time to some other time when you will get it. So if it's not a journey in space, it's not a journey in time, is it a journey to something else? I am this person and I'm seeking something else apart from me. That also is not the journey in the path of knowledge. It is not a journey in, it's not a journey from myself to something else, because the essence of the path of knowledge is that you are that. So I am that reality. It's not a journey from myself to something else. So it's not a journey in space, it's not a journey in time, it's not a journey from one object to another. So what kind of a journey are we going to undertake? A spiritual journey, what kind is it when we talk about self-inquiry? So the journey here is a journey from ignorance to knowledge. Ignorance to knowledge, from avidya, from ajnana to jnana, from not knowing what we truly are to knowing and realizing what we truly are. So the claim is that we do not know who we really are. And one might object at this point. I know that I exist, and I know who I am. I'm Swami Sarvapriyananda. What is the need to do self-inquiry? I already know that. But Vedanta claims that we do not know ourselves as we are truly. We have a very partial, in fact, a very erroneous concept of ourselves. I know that I exist, and if I'm asked to give further details about who or what I am, can I describe myself? We would normally say that here I am this this person, this body. If you ask me to point out where are you, and say here. What are you? This one. And what is this? This is I, and I am this. So this is the way we would normally describe ourselves. And Vedanta says that this is an erroneous conception of the self. When we conceive of ourselves as the body, which we do when we do not reflect about it, we normally think of ourselves as the body and speak and behave as if we were the body. And when we do that, Vedanta says that you're making a very serious mistake. And it's because of this mistake that we suffer. Let us not forget, the whole goal of Jnana Yoga, of the whole goal of all these yogas, including Hatha Yoga, is to overcome suffering, is to attain fulfillment. And the unique message of Jnana Yoga is that our suffering is actually due to our erroneous conception about ourselves. It's not really due to the disease of the body. It's not really due to COVID. It's not really due to financial hardship. It's not really due to relationship problems. It's not due to physical problems or mental problems. It's due to a wrong idea. Suffering is due to a wrong conception about ourselves. So we know we exist, but what we think about ourselves is wrong. And to discover what we truly are, this is the goal of the path of knowledge, the yoga of knowledge. Self-inquiry is the method, an inquiry into what we are truly. Why an inquiry? Because when we are seeking knowledge, the only method is inquiry. We have to find out, we have to know, we have to go from not knowing to knowing. This also one should distinguish from the other paths. One path which is very common in religions of the world, is the path of belief. So one path will tell you that, especially the path of bhakti, it tells you that there is an ultimate reality called God, and by the grace of God, you will overcome your suffering, you will attain fulfillment, but you have to believe in God. Why? Well, on certain grounds, because our scriptures say so, because holy people, enlightened persons have told you that God exists, God is good, God is all powerful. If you love God, believe in God, you will attain fulfillment eventually. Maybe not in this life, but maybe eventually. And notice the whole thing depends on faith, on belief. If you start with skepticism, if you start by asking, I don't believe in God, then that path will not work on you, will not work for you. It starts with some kind of faith, which is a little difficult these days, especially in the age of the new militant atheists, Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens and so on, who attack this kind of beliefs. So, but this is the general idea about religion, actually. In this country, in the United States, the word normally used for religion is faith, which literally means it's belief. But when you come to something like Advaita Vedanta or even Buddhism or even yoga, Patanjali yoga, it does not seem to be a system of faith. As against this path of faith is the path of experience, path of mystical experience, which one might broadly sort of classify Patanjali yoga, general field of mysticism. That path says that you don't have to believe, rather you can experience it. We will teach you a set of exercises. You sit in this way, meditate in this way, visualize in this way, control the mind, focus, and you will attain certain samadhis, certain mystical states by which the truth of religion will be revealed to you. Swami Vivekananda popularized this approach. It was something remarkable. The masses here in the United States did not know that it was open to everybody, that one could experience the truths of the claims of religions for oneself. As Swami Vivekananda said, if I have an immortal soul, I must feel it. If God exists, I must see God. How do you do that? By these psychophysical exercises taught in yoga, one will get certain extraordinary experiences, certain mystical experiences, which will prove to be the claims of religion, that religion is true. Now, the only problem with this is wonderful, but the problem with this is that it can again be doubted. If you ask a neuroscientist, the neuroscientist will tell you that, yes, we don't doubt you feel that you are having an experience of God or oneness or something like that, but it's actually a little bit of a problem in your brain, a little tumor in your brain or some kind of, the neurons malfunctioning there, and you feel you're getting this experience, but that does not prove that you're actually experiencing God or oneness. It can be doubted. And I'm sure most modern materialistic reductionist scientists would doubt the veracity of such experiences. But anyway, that's one major path, the path of extraordinary experience. In contrast to these two paths, the path of belief, faith, the path of mystical, extraordinary experience obtained through meditative practices, there is this path of self-inquiry. The path of self-inquiry does not demand that you believe in anything. In fact, you must not believe it. You have to question and understand. It also does not demand that you get extraordinary experiences. It depends on what is available to everybody. I mean, who does not have the experience of being awake, of sleeping, of dreaming? If you have the experience of waking, dreaming, deep sleep, Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, that's enough. The path of self-inquiry says, now we will inquire into this experience, which is the common experience, not a mystical experience, which we all share. We will inquire into this experience, and we will guide you into seeing what underlies this, the real nature of the self. I am the experiencer and the world is experienced. I am the subject, the world is the object. I am the seer and the world is seen. Who does not have this? In fact, this is the structure of all experience, subject, object. If you have this much, then also the path of self-inquiry can guide you. We will see today. It can guide you to enlightenment, to realization of the true self, or the path of the, the method of the 5 sheets. We all experience the body, we experience the prana, we experience the mind and the intellect, and also in deep sleep, the causal body or the anandamaya. So once you have an experience, everybody has this experience of the 5 sheets. That is enough for beginning or proceeding on the path of self-inquiry. So this is the path of self-inquiry. It's pretty unique, and in our tradition, it is the direct path. We might say the royal path to enlightenment. I have distinguished it from bhakti, from Patanjali yoga, but also I must say that in the traditional approach, none of the yogas are excluded. In the path of self-inquiry, devotion, selfless karma, and meditation, they are all very useful. They are not central, but they are very useful. They're foundational. They prepare the mind for the path of self-inquiry. So let us today take a look at what the path of self-inquiry looks like. What is this yoga of self-inquiry, and how do you practice it, and what will be the result? There are different procedures, as I have indicated, which you find in the Upanishads. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, you find the procedure of the methodology of the 5 sheets of analyzing the 5 sheets and realizing who we truly are. That's the method of self-inquiry in the Taittiriya Upanishad. In the Mandukya Upanishad, we find the method of the self-inquiry based on the 3 states of waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, avasthatraya vichara. Today, I'll take up a simple but powerful method based on this little non-dualistic text, Drigdrishya Viveka. It literally means the discrimination or the looking into the analysis of the seer and the seen, distinguishing the seer from the seen. The very first verse, which I will take up now we are going into the actual method of self-inquiry. We will take up one verse from this, the first one, which gives us the method in a nutshell. Now, before we go into it, what we have to do here is you listen to these teachings and you try to see that, have I heard what the teaching is? That's step 1, hearing the teachings, Shravana. The second step is, have I understood what was said? Do I get it? At this stage, one may have many questions, and one should ask those questions and clarify so that one can claim, I have understood what is being said. Not only have I heard the teachings, but I've also understood the teachings. Now, the only thing is, do I feel it is a fact? Is it a living reality? To convert it into a living reality, which Swami Vivekananda called assimilation, what we have heard and what we are convinced of, you have to stay with that. And there are various techniques of Vedantic meditation which allow you to stay with this new knowledge. Those are called nididhyasana techniques. So Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Shravana is hearing the teaching, you receive the knowledge. Manana is reflecting about it so that we can understand it. We clear up all questions, misapprehensions about it, and then stay with it. Stay with this new knowledge, assimilate it. Swami Vivekananda says, tell yourself again and again, I am that, or I am he, till it tingles with every drop of your blood. He calls it assimilation of this knowledge. So that is the procedure. And you can simplify it further. Keep in mind these 3 questions. What did he say? When I'm going to talk about the method, we should ask, what did he say? And can I repeat it back to myself? Have I got the teaching? Step 1. That completes Shravana. Step 2 would be, do I get it? Do I understand it? If I say yes, then I've completed step 2. I know the teaching and I've understood it. Step 3 is the most important one, and that takes time. And that is it real? Is it a fact for me? Right now, when I say I am this body, it's a fact for me. It's something that I don't generally doubt. So like that, when we will say I am Brahman, I am the witness consciousness, is it a fact for me, or is it just some kind of feels like a theory? Let us dive straight into the teaching itself. The first verse of this little text says, Rupam drishyam lochanam drik tadrishyam driktu manasam drishyadhivrittaya sakshi drigeva natu drishyate. A beautiful and incisive verse, and what a beginning. The entire teaching is summed up there. So what it does is, in 4 steps, we will be taken from our present identification with the body, which Vedanta holds, or the path of knowledge holds to be an error, to an appreciation, to a knowledge of what we truly are, in 4 steps. And the method is the method of the seer and the seen. And there's nothing very esoteric about this method. It's just that what we are experiencing now. I am looking at the screen, so I am the seer and the screen is the seen. Similarly, we start there and then we go deeper and deeper, holding on to that principle of seer and seen. What is the seer and what is the seen? I've always identified myself with the seer, and then using that, we will dive deeper and deeper and change our understanding of the seer. Hold on to this idea that the seer and the seen are different. We will give up this idea later on, finally. But at first, it's a very obvious thing to hold on to. Here are my glasses, and the glasses are the seen. I am the seer. So I am seeing it. These are the seen. And clearly, the glasses are different from me. The seer and the seen are different. The seen are different from the seer. Different by different, I mean a different entity. The first part says, Rupam drishyam lochanam drik. Rupam literally means colors, but you can just say form, colors and shapes, and whatever is seen by the eyes is Rupam. What we see with the eyes is different from the eyes. What we see seems to be out there. I can see a lot of things in this room. I can see some of you on the screen, and that's different from the eyes. The eyes are seeing the forms. And it's pretty obvious. But note 3 things about this. The seer and the seen are different. Number 1, the seer is more or less, it's remaining the same eyes, but what is being seen keeps changing. The seer is stable and the seen are changing. Now before this you're seeing something else. Now you are looking at this webinar. After that, after some time, you will see something else. The seen keep changing and the seer remains relatively stable. And the third point is, the seen are many. The forms are so many, different colors, shapes, people, animals, sky, earth, trees, all of these things. So many, thousands and thousands of entities are being seen, but by the same seer, the pair of eyes. The seer is one, by which I mean that the organ of vision is one. I don't mean that you're one-eyed, but the seer is one and the seen are many. So we have got 3 things we have noted, but just by the simple act of looking at the world. The seer, the eyes are different from the seen, and the eyes remaining the same, the seen are continuously changing. The eyes are one and the same, the seen are many. Okay, we might say that's pretty obvious. Ask yourself those 3 questions. Did I hear what he said? Do I understand it? And is it a fact? Does it feel like a theory, or is it real? And you say, yes, it is real. I'm looking, this is real, and I'm seeing so many things. This is real. There's nothing theoretical about it. Just a description of what I'm experiencing right now. Very good. Now we go a little deeper in the second part of the verse. The second part of the verse is Tad drishyam driktu manasam. The eyes now become the seen and the mind is the seer. Consider now, draw your attention to the eyes. Here you are first looking at, your attention was on the objects out there. Now draw your attention to the seer, the eyes, and note the eyes themselves are objects of my knowledge. I am aware that my eyes are open. I am aware that my eyes are closed. I'm aware that I need glasses for my eyes. I'm aware that I can see very well, or I'm aware that I cannot see very well. The eyes and their functioning, we are aware of it. It's an object of our awareness, of our understanding. Who or what is aware of the eyes? The mind is aware of the eyes. It is the mind which thinks about the eyes. Mind is the seer, and the eyes are now the seen. And now we are using the word seer and seen not in the sense of visual sensation, but as in the sense of knowledge. The mind is the knower. Seer means here knower. Mind knows. And what does the mind know? The eyes. That which was earlier taken in a very simple, naive way as the seer. The world was seen, forms were seen, eyes are the seer. Now, the eyes themselves, we recognize, yes, they are objects also. My mind objectifies the eyes. I am aware of the eyes and their functioning and their problems. So the mind is the seer, the eyes become the seen. What about the world? The world remains the seen. World is always the seen. The eyes which were taken as the seer now, they have also become part of the seen. They become objects which we are aware of. And not just the eyes. All the other sense organs, which were the seer earlier, now they are in the category of the seen. They were the drashta earlier, now in the category of the drishyam, the seen. And note those 3 points again about it, that the seer and the seen are different. The mind, whatever it is, must be different from the eyes. The eyes are here, it's an organ of vision. The mind is quite different from it, feels quite different, composed of thoughts, feelings, emotions. So the mind is different from the seen, the eyes. Seer and seen are different. The mind, remaining the mind, it is aware of so many changes in the eyes, in the other sense organs. So the seen are continuously changing. The seer is relatively stable. You might say the mind is not stable. The mind keeps having so many thoughts and feelings and emotions. But yes, the mind changes into more mind. But all the others, they are such a variety. The ears and the eyes and the nose and the skin and the objects out there, they have enormous variety. They keep changing so much. The seer is unchanging relatively, and the seen are changing. The seer is one. The mind in itself is one, as the mind, but the seen are many. Drashta is one, drishya are many. Drashta is unchanging, drishya are changing. Again, relatively unchanging, and the drishyam are changing. And drashta and drishya are separate. They're two separate things. And this also, it seems pretty obvious. You know, the 3 questions. Did I hear what he said? Yes. The mind is the seer, and the sense organs, eyes, are the seen. Did I understand it? It's pretty obvious. It's not very problematic. And is it a fact? If you inquire, you will feel. I think everybody feels it's a fact that the mind is different from the eyes. So the seer is the mind. Let us inquire deeper. We go to the 3rd step. And here it becomes interesting. Notice so far it seems to be just a labeling of what we already know, what we already experience. The 3rd step is, the 3rd quarter of the verse is, Drishyadhivrittaya Sakshi. Consider the mind itself. Is the mind known? Are we aware of the mind? We are actually. There's a word for that, introspection. When we take our attention and put it on thoughts. We were thinking about the eyes earlier. Now notice the thoughts themselves. The thoughts of I am happy, I am sad, there's a pain, I am anxious, I'm curious, I am listening to what this person is saying. These are all thoughts in the mind. And we are aware of the thoughts. Often we may not put our attention there, but the thoughts are going on. When we put our attention to our own thoughts, the word is introspection. We are looking into our thoughts. That means the thoughts themselves, which the mind is comprised of, they become objects. Thoughts, feelings, memories, they become objects, subtle objects. So what is the distinction between subtle and physical? Physical is the sthula, the body, the external objects, which is our public shared reality. You can see it, I can see it. The doctor can examine this body. But the subtle is that which we have a direct first-person experience of, but it's not available to others. My thoughts, the thoughts going on in this mind, I am aware of it, but nobody, even the most subtlest of instruments, fMRI scan, cannot actually access the thought. They may access the neural correlate of the thought, but they cannot access, they cannot think the thought. So that which I have a direct first-person experience is called the subtle or sukshma, but we cannot doubt it exists. Every one of us, we are aware that we have thoughts, feelings, all of us, unless we are, the zombies, we all have thoughts, feelings, emotions. And what this text tells us to notice, the path of self-inquiry tells us to notice, is that these thoughts also are objects. They're objects of my awareness. I am aware of these thoughts. In my awareness, these thoughts arise. In my awareness, they play around. In my awareness, they disappear. These thoughts come and go. Now notice then what happens. That awareness, which I am aware of the thoughts. That awareness becomes the drashta, the seer. The thoughts are now the seen. That mind, which was the seer earlier, is now the seen. We are aware of it like an object. And the same observations apply. Drashta and drishya are separate. This is a major breakthrough. This is something not normally understood, and even by modern consciousness studies, that awareness, consciousness, and the mind, they are not the same thing. Awareness is awareness of the mind. Awareness, if it's awareness of the mind, awareness is the drashta, the seer, and mind is the seen. And the seer and seen are different. They are different entities. Therefore, awareness must be different from the mind which it is aware of. And again, notice, the mind is full of a variety of thoughts. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, good, bad, they all come and go. And the awareness is the same. If you abstract thoughts from awareness, then you begin to see awareness is homogeneous. Awareness is like a light. The light here falls on so many things on the table. The table has many things. There's the computer, there's a book, and there's a pen and the glasses, and so many objects are there on the table. They're all revealed by the same light. When the light reveals the book and the light reveals the glasses, light does not change. Book and glasses are different objects. The light which is shining on them is not different. Similarly, the awareness which reveals a variety of thoughts, perceptions, is one and the same. Those thoughts and perceptions are many. So drishyam is many, drashta is the same. And then we also come to that important insight, the third one, that drashta is unchanging and the drishya are changing continuously. That which the thoughts, feelings, emotions are changing, they're not only many, they're changing. And the awareness is unchanging. So why not say that the awareness is also changing? If the awareness is changing, if you're aware of the change of the awareness, then that change becomes an object, and it's not in awareness, it's an object of awareness. So it cannot be that the awareness is changing, rather awareness is aware of changes. You cannot logically actually speak about a change of the awareness itself, because awareness reveals that change. So three observations. Drashta and drishya are different. Awareness, consciousness, I'm using it indifferently. Awareness, consciousness is different from all the contents of the mind. Mind is the drishya and awareness is the drashta. Consciousness is the drashta and the mind is the drishya. And remember, sense organs are also drishya, and the world out there, of course, is drishya, always the seen, not the seer. Consciousness is always the seer, drashta, never the seen. And in between, you have mind and the sense organs, which played the role of the seer for some time, but now we have firmly put them in the category of the seen or drashta. This mind is unchanging, one, and the seer, drashta, nirvikara, and also ekam, one. Here itself we can find something very interesting. You see, all our problems are in the category of the seen. Physical pain, the body. The body is the seen, the physical pain is experienced in the body. So it is also an object. If you have experienced pain, we say that I am in pain. If you apply this drashta and drishya, this drashta drishya viveka, then the question will be this: you are in pain, yes. And are you aware of the pain? Yes. If you are aware of the pain, then the pain is a drishya. You are the drashta. You have just admitted. You are aware of the pain. And if you are aware of the pain is a drishya, you are the drashta. And remember, the first point, drashta and drishya are separate. So you and the pain are separate. You cannot be in pain. You are aware of the pain. The moment you are aware of the pain must be something, an object of your awareness. It is not that awareness is in pain. Awareness reveals the pain in the body. Awareness itself is free of the pain. This is an interesting, very subtle insight. When Shankaracharya, in one place, in Upadesha Shahasri, he teaches this to the student. The student says, but it burns. When my finger is burnt, it burns. I cannot say this, my body is an object like this object. If you do something to this object, I am not affected. But if you pinch my body, the body is, like it touches a flame, it burns and there's so much pain. So how can I say this body is an object? But then the analysis, Shankaracharya says, there is pain. Are you aware of the pain? Yes. Then the pain is also an object. And if it is an object, the object is different from the subject. The seen is different from the seer. Drashta is different from drishyam. They are separate entities. If you notice carefully, the pain is also a separate entity from yourself. It can go very far to that incident where Sri Ramakrishna, a cancer patient whose throat cancer, one doctor told me it's one of the worst forms of cancer, throat cancer, and suffering, terminally ill. And his student Hari, who later became Swami Turiyananda, comes and asks, sir, how are you today? And Sri Ramakrishna says, oh, it hurts here, I cannot eat. And then Hari, God knows what he saw, he said, but sir, I see you are in great bliss, which would be a cruel thing to say to a cancer patient. He says you are in great bliss. And Sri Ramakrishna's reaction is extraordinary, quite unlike any cancer patient. He says, oh, the rascal has found me out, meaning that actually I am in great bliss. Now, was he lying that there is no, that about the pain, there is a pain, I cannot eat? Was he lying about the suffering? No. Was he pretending that about the suffering? No. The suffering is there. As the body is there, the tumor is there, and the pain caused by the tumor and the suffering caused is there, is experienced. But here, I am something that is aware of this experience and yet independent of it. In that true nature, in the seer, in the consciousness which is the witness of that, there is no trouble at all. The pain is there, I am here. I and the pain are different. That witness, consciousness, was aware of a state where there was no pain before the cancer, or before the burning of the finger, is aware of the pain now. And again, the pain will go. The drishya keeps changing. But the drashta, the seeing consciousness, the witness consciousness is still the same. And the drishya are many. You're aware of pain, you're aware of pleasure, and aware of many things, but the awareness is one and the same, unchanging. Drashta is one, drishya is separate from it. Drashta is one, drishyam are many, drashta is unchanging, drishya is changing. What is this drashta? It is called sakshi. The objects of this sakshi are dhivrittaya, the movements of the mind, chitta vritti. Now, this witness consciousness, which we discover here, is free of the movements of the mind. It is free of the movements of the conditions of the body, the good and bad conditions of the problems in the physical body, problems in the mind. It is free of them. It is aware. It illumines them. It reveals them. But just as the light shining here, if it shines on Ganges water, it's not the light is purified. If it shines on drain water, it's not that the light becomes impure. The light reveals both impartially. Similarly, this consciousness which we are, that reveals everything in this world and in the body and in the mind, and yet is free and untouched by them. The method of self-inquiry reveals this fact. Now, immediately, before we go on to the last quarter of this verse, let me ask the three questions. Did you hear the teaching? What was said? Yes, I have heard, hopefully, what the teaching is. Have I understood it? At this point, many might say, yeah, I've understood what you're saying. Yes, I get it. Some might say it's still not very clear. Then you have to repeat that verse. You have to go through it and think about it again and again, step by step, and come to the point where it is clear. I've understood it. The crucial question is it a fact? Is it real that I am the witness consciousness and everything, the mind and body, the world are all witnessed objects out there, separate from me? At this point, most of us will say, that sounds theoretical. Remember, up to the first two stages, eyes are the seer and the world is seen. We felt it is a fact, already a fact. The eyes are seen, the mind is the seer. That's also a fact. Nothing to realize there. But here, when we come here, people will object that it sounds like a theory. It sounds like some clever philosophy. It does not feel like a fact that I am pure consciousness and the mind and the body are drishya, objects, and that I'm free of them. I'm aware, I reveal the body, I reveal the mind, through the body-mind, I reveal the world. I am just like pure light, pure awareness. Yet Vedanta insists it's absolutely a fact right now. Vedanta does not make it a fact. Vedanta only reveals. See, Vedanta is knowledge. The path of self-inquiry will give us knowledge. It will not create something new. It will not generate something new. It will not make me from the body into consciousness. I am already this consciousness, and the path of self-inquiry, the yoga of self-inquiry, just reveals that. Knowledge can only reveal, like light reveals things. Light does not create these objects. Knowledge reveals the state of affairs. Vastu sthiti, the state of affairs, is revealed by knowledge. Self-inquiry reveals that I am the self, the seer, I am awareness. It does not make you into awareness. Now, if we hesitate to say that honestly I feel I am pure consciousness, I can sing with honesty, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham, Manobuddhi Ahankara Chittani Naham. I am not the mind, not the intellect, not the memory, not even the ego. So what an interesting statement. Ahankara na aham. The ego I am not. That means the ego is also a function of the mind. This is actually the destruction of the ego. This is the transcendence of the ego. I realize I'm not the ego. It's just a function of the mind. Now, this we hesitate to say. And one reason why we hesitate to say this is given in the last quarter. We have this urge now that this possibility is there. I am this pure consciousness. What is it? How can I experience it? And alas, the verse says, Drigeva natu drishyate, this pure consciousness, the witness itself, the ultimate seer, that never becomes seen. You cannot experience it as an object. It is never an object. And I said, alas, but it's actually good news. If that becomes an object, that pure consciousness becomes an object to whom? An object to what? That is ever the subject, never the object. It is ever the illuminer, never the illuminated. Though I must say here, it is not unknown. It is self-luminous. It reveals itself continuously. It reveals itself and everything else. See the light. When the light falls on this table and reveals the book and the glasses and the gadgets and all these things on the table and computer, they are all revealed by the light. They cannot reveal themselves. They cannot reveal each other. They cannot illuminate each other. They are not luminous. The light reveals all of them. They cannot reveal the light also because they are not luminous. But the light does not require anything else to reveal itself. The light which is shining, it can reveal everything in the table and it reveals itself. It reveals itself first. It shines forth first, self-luminous, then reveals everything directly. Similarly, this witness consciousness, it never becomes an object. You cannot objectify it. But it is self-luminous. It is shining forth all the time. The reason why we hesitate to say, yes, there is this pure consciousness and I am this pure consciousness. Now it is obvious to me. Thank you, Swami. Self-inquiry has worked. I am now liberated. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham. I am of the nature of Shiva. Why we hesitate is because we are only used to experiencing objects. Our entire structure of experience is objects, things. Here are objects out there revealed by my eyes. Here are my eyes and my ears and my skin, my sense organs revealed by the mind. Here are my thoughts revealed by consciousness. But consciousness itself is revealed by what? How is it an object of my experience? It's not an object of my experience. And therefore, we miss it all the time. We are unable to catch it. We are unable to appreciate its existence. And we hesitate to say that, first of all, whether such a thing is there at all, and that I am that. We hesitate to say it with any degree of confidence. But it is that which is always revealing everything else. It's like looking at your face in the mirror. I can see my reflection or my image in the computer. I can see my image in the computer now. Now, if I see and look at my image in the computer and somebody tells me that's a reflection, it's not your real face. Your real face is here. I may doubt it. I say, I can see the reflection there. I can see the image there. That I can see, and it's there. I can see, because I can say it exists because I see it. But this real face you're talking about, I can't see it. How do I know it exists? I know it exists because of the image. The camera is capturing something and revealing it there because of that. The eyes themselves, you say all these things in front of me exist because I can see it. See, the proof of existence is seeing. I see it, therefore it exists. The problem is the eyes themselves, I don't see it. I don't see the eyes directly. I can see it in a selfie, I can see it in the mirror, but directly the way the eyes see other objects, I can't see them. And therefore, if I say, how do I know that the eyes exist? The proof of existence is I must see them. I can't see the eyes. So how do I know that the eyes exist? I know that the book exists because I see the book. I know my hand exists because I see my hand. I know that you exist because I see you. How do I know? By seeing what will I know that the eyes exist? The answer is seeing anything. That the eyes, the function of the eyes is to reveal, is to see. The fact that you are seeing anything at all is a proof that you have eyes. The seeing of anything reveals that you have eyes. The experience of anything in this universe reveals that you are consciousness. Consciousness is always shining forth. So this indubitable consciousness, which is always shining forth, which is different from the scene, the objects of consciousness. This is our real nature. And knowing this, we are free of the sufferings of material nature, because sufferings are in the body or in the mind, which are drishya and objects. The sufferings being there, don't misplace things. What belongs to the body, keep it in the body. What belongs to the mind, keep it in the mind. Don't take what belongs to the body and impose it upon yourself. This is called adhyasa. That which does not belong there in consciousness. Pain. I am in pain. No, wait a minute. I am the witness of the pain. Isn't it true? Then you must say, I am not the pain. I am aware of the pain. I am free of the pain. Pain may come and go. I am free of the pain. I am anxious due to COVID, due to problems in the world. I am not anxious. There's a feeling of anxiety in the mind about something. And I, the non-anxious, never anxious awareness reveals that anxiety in the mind. The anxiety is not in consciousness. Okay. So this consciousness, there's a beautiful verse about it, the fifth one in this book, which talks about the nature of this consciousness. No deti nastametyesha na vriddhim yati nakshayam swayam vibhatyatanyani bhasayet sadhanam vina. This consciousness, like, we see the sun rising and setting, but when you go to the sun itself, there's no rising and setting, there's no day and night. It's eternal day. Similarly, consciousness, it does not rise and set. Waking and dreaming and deep sleep, You see, those are not states of consciousness, they're states of the mind. The mind wakes up and shines in consciousness. The mind falls asleep and dreams in consciousness. The mind goes to sleep, and that sleep state is revealed by consciousness. Consciousness neither rises nor sets. Navriddhim yati nakshayam. There's no more consciousness, no less consciousness. If I take a cup of coffee, I feel more conscious. No, you feel more alert because the mind is now stimulated by that coffee. The nerves are stimulated by that coffee. It's not that consciousness is stimulated by coffee. Na vriddhim yati nakshayam. Swayam vibhati. It is self-luminous like the light. Even the light is not self-luminous. The light is revealed by these eyes. The eyes are revealed by the mind. And the mind is revealed by consciousness, which is revealed by itself, nothing by nothing else. It is self-luminous. Swayam vibhati. Ata anyani bhasayet. And it reveals everything else. It reveals all the thoughts, feelings, emotions, perceptions which are in the mind, sadhanam vina, without any instrument. The mind needs the instrument of the senses to experience the world. But even the senses need the instrument of the glasses to see better. But consciousness does not need glasses. Consciousness does not need any instrument. It directly reveals the mind. Through the mind reveals the body mind, the body and the senses. Through the sensory system reveals the external world. It's consciousness alone which reveals, consciousness alone which shines, and it illuminates the entire world. One point, then I'll stop and take questions. All of this which I've said, the path of self-inquiry, it is at this point where I've isolated the consciousness from the entire world of experienced objects, including body. Body is now an object. Mind is also now an object. Thoughts are objects. Drashta and Drishya Viveka has been done. This is not Advaita Vedanta, truly speaking. This is Sankhya, the ancient philosophy of discerning material nature from consciousness, Purusha and Prakriti Viveka. This is what has been done. This separation is certainly not non-duality. Non-duality is a step further. One sadhu in Uttarakhand said, "Ye jo drashta drishya karte rehte hai na, ye kache Vedanti hai." Those who keep on talking about drashta and drishya, like we were doing till now, they are unripe Vedantis. They're kache Vedanta. Vedanta is oneness. Advaita Vedanta is oneness, not this separation. So how do we establish oneness? Now we can establish oneness. We ask the question, what is the relationship of the drishya to the drashta? The sadhu put it very nicely. He said in Hindi, "Kabhi aapne ye socha hai, have you ever thought? Drashta to drishya se alag hai, prithak hai, sach hai. The seer is different from the seen. Drishya kya drashta se prithak hai? Are the seen different from the seer? Seer is different from the seen, but are the seen different? Do they exist independently of the seer?" It's a strange question to ask. But think about it. When you say two things are separate, the glasses and the book are separate. You can see the glasses separately and the book separately. But what about water and waves? What about gold and the ornaments? The waves are separate from the water in the sense that the water can exist, or the water is separate from the waves. The water can exist without the waves. Water can exist as calm water. Water can exist as water vapor. Water can exist as water in my glass. But waves cannot exist apart from water. Waves are nothing but water. Ornaments are nothing but gold. Pottery is nothing but clay. So in the same way, the claim now is all that consciousness experiences, all the objects are actually nothing but consciousness with a network of names and forms. In other words, we'll say a little later, the universe is nothing but a network of names and forms spread over existence consciousness, please, spread over this consciousness. So whatever we experience is actually not different from us. We started with drashta and drishya separate. Now we are merging the drishya back into the drashta. We realize it is consciousness alone, it is I alone who appear as my objects with the help of names and forms. Because these are not separate from me, they do not constitute a countable second apart from me, I am non-dual. There is no real independent second entity apart from consciousness. Therefore, consciousness, pure consciousness, this witness consciousness, is non-dual. There is no independent second entity apart from me, the consciousness. Therefore, I am non-dual. Advayam Brahma. This is the meaning of Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham. I am of the nature of consciousness, bliss, of the nature of Shiva, who is non-dual. There is no countably separate second entity apart. Although the universe appears, it appears in consciousness and indistinguishable from consciousness. Just the magic of names and forms conjured up by the inexplicable power of Maya, which seems to be a second reality, but it is not. Therefore, Advaita, non-duality, is established. And that is the culmination of the path of self-inquiry. I pray to Sri Ramakrishna, the Holy Mother, and Swami Vivekananda on this wonderful day, the International Day of Yoga, that this highest yoga, the yoga of self-inquiry, it becomes fruitful, luminous in our lives, and our lives are blessed. We realize who we truly are. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm, I think, almost out of time. There's some questions, I think, yes.
Pranam Maharaj, thank you so much for your nice deliberation. So we will repeat the questions that has been written by some participants in chat window. So we will read out and we will request you to kindly answer. So first question is from Swami Japasiddhanandji Maharaj. I'm sorry. The first question is from Pradeep Banerjee. If we are not the body and the mind, then who is perceiving and feeling? Also, who is dreaming?
If we are not the body and the mind, who is perceiving and feeling? You are. Obviously, you are perceiving and feeling because you claim, I see, I smell, I touch, I am awake, I dreamt. So you are. The question is, what is the nature of the you? Is it the body? Is it just the body which dreams and which sees and hears? Then the dead body also can see and hear. You say, no, it is the living body. Then the living body also can see and hear. If your mind is fallen asleep, suppose you are given an injection and put into anesthesia and in deep anesthesia. The body is a living body. Can it see? Can it hear? Can it smell and taste and touch? No. So it is actually awareness, which is seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. There is no other seer in this body and mind apart from awareness. There is no other hearer, smeller, taster, toucher. There is no other thinker, no other one who remembers except awareness itself. So awareness is that which is doing everything through the body and mind, so the instrumentality of the body and mind.
Maharaj, the next question is from Joydeep. He asks, yes, how can one experience the awareness in oneself? Is there any specific practice you can suggest?
Are you not experiencing awareness in yourself right now? What practice? So Joydeep, tell me, what practice do you need to become Joydeep? You are Joydeep. I'm asking you, what are the practices that you do daily, morning, evening, afternoon? What yogic practices do you do to become Joydeep? You say, nothing, I'm Joydeep, effortlessly Joydeep. Are you not aware effortlessly? What exercises are you doing to be aware? Nothing. The whole point is this: we are already awareness. We just do not recognize what we already have. We get this feeling is something extraordinary is being talked about. Sri Ramakrishna talked about the washerman who discovered a diamond. He did not know it was a diamond. He used it to scrub clothes. But luckily, he had a friend, a vegetable seller, to whom he took the stone. It's a strange stone. It's not like other stones. Can you tell me what is it? The vegetable seller said, I don't know really, but it seems to be something valuable. I can give you so much of brinjals for it. Give it to me. Luckily, the washerman did not sell the diamond. Finally, he went to his friend who is a diamond merchant and who said, it's the most extraordinary diamond I've seen. I'll give you 10 crore rupees for it. And all the wants of the washerman were removed. The diamond which he always had, he was just using it for scrubbing. We have the diamond, which is pure awareness, immortal consciousness, the Chidananda Rupa Shivoham. And we are using it. How are we using it? We are using it for seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting and touching. We are using it for thinking, for loving, hating, suffering, and listening to seminars and webinars. We are using the same thing. The diamond is there. We don't recognize what we have.
Maharaj, the next question is from Tuhina. She's asking how to realize the subtle self within us, which is not the body.
The subtle self, sukshma, I understand what you want to say, but the question, if you look at it the way it's phrased, how do you realize the subtle self? So what is the gross self, the physical self? Physical self is the body. How do you realize it? You don't have to realize it. It's obvious. What is the subtle self then? It is the mind, your thoughts, feelings. What is there to realize? You're always experiencing it. What you mean is what was taught just now, the witness consciousness, how to realize that. The fact is, it is always there. It is always shining forth, but it's not helpful to talk like that. Therefore, what Vedanta does is, it comes down to our level and says that, yes, you don't think that you are this witness consciousness. Then let us take it step by step. Say what you are. Tell me what you are. Point to what you are. We'll point to the body. Then Vedanta shows us how we are not the body actually. The body is there, but we are aware of the body. Something inside, anyo antarant atma, pranamaya. There's something inside which enlivens the body. It takes us to the prana. Then we experience the prana. We think, are you the prana? But you are the experiencer of the prana. And anyo antaratma manomaya. Step by step, from the body to the prana, to the mind, to the intellect, to something beyond that. Did you see how we moved here? From the external world and the sensory system. This is the stula, the gross, the physical. We move from that to thoughts, the mind, driktu manasam, the subtle world. And from there, we skipped the causal part of it. We jumped to the witness consciousness. So always what Vedanta does is, it helps us to move from the physical to the subtle to the causal, that is a technical point, and to the witness of the causal, subtle, physical. And after that, it merges these three back. Merges means you realize what you called causal and subtle and physical are actually not apart from you.
Thank you, Maharaj. The last question is from Dikshant. He is asking, how do I break the distinction between my spiritual life and my work life and find out all what I do is spiritual?
That's a very good question. And the answer will be different for each of the yogas. So for karma yoga, the most powerful way of breaking the distinction between this false dichotomy between the sacred and the secular. Karma yoga is transformation of all our actions into spiritual practice. So your work life, your life in the community, your life in the family, they can all be seen as puja, as worship of the divine. Now, there's no distinction between what you do in your temple, in your meditation room, in Vedanta class, and what you do in your office, in your school, in your family. All of it can become spiritual practice. That's from the perspective of karma yoga. From the perspective of bhakti yoga, the difference between Laukika and Vaidika. That means there's some practice which I consider religious, but the same God whom I worship in the temple and the prayer room is there in every living being, in every activity. Are they separate from God? So I'm worshipping God, whether I'm in my prayer room or in my secular activity. In the path of yoga, that is a little difficult. In the path of Raja Yoga, where the practice itself is to cut out everything else. And actually, during the practice of Raja Yoga, you cannot involve yourself in activities. Asino sambhavat. It is possible when you sit down quietly, separate from the hurly-burly of the world. But with the increased concentration, the focus which you get from Raja Yoga, it becomes very useful in day-to-day life. And in the path of self-inquiry, the distinction between the secular and the sacred is lost entirely. This consciousness, which you are inquiring into, is available continuously. See, in the yogic Patanjali yoga method of meditation, you have to close your eyes and sit and meditate. But in Vedantic Nididhyasana, you can close your eyes and sit and meditate. You can open your eyes, Brahmarpanam Brahmavi, that in your activities throughout the day, you can see all action, as the cosmic yajna. You can see the all action as a worship or as a manifestation of consciousness. Brahma Karma Samadhina. That means the one who sees Brahman in every action. That one attains to Brahman. That means if your eyes are open, you are acting, whether you are doing some kind of spiritual activity, some kind of ritual, or in the office or in the school, everything is a play of that one consciousness. And you realize that, and that is possible in the path of non-dualism. Yes.
Maharaj, there is a question from one of our professors.
Yes.
He is a neuroscientist, and he
Yes.
has asked a very nice question. We will read it out.
Yes.
Is
What's his
with
name?
His name is Dr. Arkadev Datta. He is a
Right.
professor in our yoga department, and he is a specialist in neuroscience.
Yes.
His question is witness consciousness just confined to the subtle components of the self, or can it connect and influence many minds as a symbol of a subject eternal?
The second one, it is not confined to the mind. Rather, the mind appears in consciousness, mind, senses, and body. In the Bhagavad Gita 13th chapter, Sri Krishna says, Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. In the terminology used by Dr. Datta, it is that one witness consciousness, the one subject eternal, which is illumining all the fields. That means the minds and bodies. Consider it this way. It's nothing very remarkable. I am aware. I feel awareness in myself. And the Drigdrishya Viveka shows me this awareness is the witness of this body and mind. We get the intuition, then so many bodies, there must be so many minds, there must be so many consciousnesses, witnesses. But no, bodies you can distinguish, you can count. You can easily count how many there are. Even this Zoom is counting how many participants there are and so on. You can count the minds also. If you take a questionnaire and ask people their opinions, whom are you voting for, Trump or Biden, you will get so many opinions, which means minds are different. But distinguished from the minds and the bodies, the consciousness itself, the witness consciousness itself, how will you distinguish? Sankhya, it's a very deep question. Sankhya says there are many witness consciousnesses, there are many Purushas. But Vedanta asks the question, on what basis are you distinguishing these Purushas? On what basis are you distinguishing the witness consciousness? And the Sankhya replies are interesting. Sankhya says that, no, there must be many consciousnesses, because if consciousness was one, then the birth of one person would be the birth of everybody, the death of one person would be the death of everybody. But that's not true. The birth is the birth of the body, the death is the death of the body. The death of one body does not mean the death of other bodies. Another objection would be, no, if we are one consciousness, then what about, when one person is awake, all would be awake. When one person is asleep, all would be asleep. But that is waking and sleeping of the mind. Same consciousness. In the waking mind, it shows the mind is awake. In the one who is sleeping, the same consciousness shines on the sleeping mind. So consciousness you cannot distinguish. Distinguishers are based on the body and the mind. So it is one witness consciousness in all bodies and minds. But this is still pretty far from what modern consciousness studies is doing. Right now, Dr. Datta will be aware, still the majority effort is to try to reduce consciousness to its neural correlates, the activity in the brain. That's because of the prevailing scientific paradigm of reductionism. Yes.